Hello everyone and welcome back to Ewan's Buzz. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at some new lighting for the workshop. So let's get started. So inside my workshop I've got a selection of different lights. Now we've got a few lights which I'll point out to you now. We've got the light on the roof, which is the main light sort of when I'm not filming. Then we've got the big bright power can that sits on the floor, 1000 watts, uses a hell of a lot of power. That gives a nice warm light to the video, and I only use that one when I'm videoing because it makes the workshop incredibly hot and it just uses a lot of power. Then we've got a T8 18 watt fluorescent lamp on the windowsill which lights up my workbench, albeit it's not bright, but it definitely helps. Then we've got a desk lamp that my dad built, which is really cool. It's got this really nice design, you know, wood, brass, also fluorescent, which is pretty neat. And that's pretty much the lights I have in my workshop. Now, the lights that we're going to be looking at today are, well, it's only one, but it's the one on the roof. Now, at the time when I chose this light, I thought I was really going to, you know, be doing the extra mile choosing this type of light, and etc, etc. But actually, I was worse off than I was. So let's take a look at this light on the roof, and I'll explain to you why I want to replace it. So here is the light on my roof. Now, this looks like a regular fluorescent light, but it isn't. Now, the reason why I chose this a while ago was because it was, it's LED. I thought LEDs would be so cool, and that they'd be amazing, and that they'd work well. But I wasn't so correct at the time. And now, mind you, this was 3 years ago. So this light has lasted a long time, which is quite impressive for LEDs, as usually they're meant to last very long, but they don't. But anyway. This light is a vapor-proof LED light fixture. Now, I really like the look of vapor-proof fixtures, but I just couldn't find one with any fluorescent bulbs in it, so I went for an LED one. Now, as you can see, this LED light has got two Osram substitute bulbs. These, I believe, are both 5 watt, if I'm not mistaken, but they are not very bright. And they introduce quite a nasty flicker that I have to edit out in my editing software. And that takes a lot of time to do, so I don't really enjoy that. So today we're going to actually be building a new fluorescent lamp and replacing this one. So I'm going to get the parts. So here are the lamps we'll be using. Now, I've got some extra ones outside, but I chose these ones. Now, they look awful, and I know that. So we're going to be cleaning them up and rebuilding them, and you're probably wondering, well, where are the ballasts? Well, they're actually on the table over there. You can sort of see them there. We're actually going to be putting in new ballasts, new starters, and a new capacitor for one of these lights. So these lights were built in the 70s, so they're quite old, and their ballasts have died. Now, I have got one with a ballast that still works, but I don't really want to fiddle with that, as I don't know how long it will last. But anyway, these two fittings are really good. The only issue is, this one, the spring-loaded contacts are a little bit bad. That one has really good spring-loaded contacts and a good case. So what we'll be doing is we'll be taking the fittings out of these single-fitting ones and putting them into this double-fitting one. And we'll be swapping parts around into the newer chassis, which is embedded neck. We'll do that, and it should work perfectly. Then we'll start building the ballasts into the chassis. But first of all, we need to clean these up. But before I do that, I need to tell you something. So, I always liked fluorescent lights, but I never liked them as much as I do now. And that is thanks to an awesome friend of mine who really just showed me the appreciation for these lights again. And I really like these lights again, and I always have, and I always will. So, soon, one of these is going to be lighting the way forward in the workshop. So, let's start cleaning them up and changing parts around, and let's get them working. Okay, so I've cleaned off the lights with a brush. The only issue is there are still some spots here and there, so I'm gonna remove the fittings, and we'll sort the fittings out just now, but I'm gonna remove those, and then we're gonna wipe down the insides and outsides with a cloth, which should, in theory, clean them up a little bit better. Yeah, so let's get started with that. Okay, so that was a pretty long time lapse, I'm sorry about that, but we're going to start cleaning the internals now, as all of this stuff I got was secondhand, and these ballasts do work. They're nice and big, so they shouldn't overheat or make excessive noise. But I'm going to quickly show you how you can test ballasts to make sure they're still good. Now, usually ballasts will, they have resistance because it's not great, but it's a small resistance. So let's turn on the multimeter. I'll put it over here. And usually, if you just turn it onto continuity, in my case, there we go, it's working. If you watch on the screen there, it should buzz and say it's good, but it should also give you a resistance. In our case, it is roughly 24 ohms. Then we can try the other ballast, which is also good. And we are getting, sorry, I'm not getting a good connection. Also, 24 ohms as well, roughly, but the connection is quite bad in this one, so we are definitely making not great connection, but they are both still good. Now, we're going to clean them all up, as they're still a bit dusty, and there's still some old cables coming out of things as well, and we don't necessarily want that. So, I decided to use the original fittings. I just stole these off of another fixture, as I had 4 of these fixtures. So I just stole these ones, and what we are going to do is we are going to open them up, as who would have thought they made serviceable fixtures back then. So we're just going to unscrew the screw a bit later, and open them up, and just take a look inside and see if we can get them actuating a bit better and a bit cleaner. So yeah, let's sort out these components. Alright, so I took the screws out of the light fittings so we could open them up a little easier. So this is one of the spring-loaded ones, with the pushing end. So let's take a look inside. Okay, so we've got a couple springs. So we've got a case, a little chassis here. And then we've got, this is the part that holds the springs and the bulbs. It looks like it moves in and out, as there's some sort of slots for it, so it moves in and out like that, and that would usually be spring loaded, so that's interesting. Here are the springs. Now they're actually quite an interesting shape. They thin down so you can hold the electrodes of the tube, I would think. And there's just 2 copper springs, got a little bit of spider web on them. Here's the back part of the fitting. Now these come out. These are the little electrodes that connect to the springs. So those are pretty interesting. You can see here. And then this is just the back, so nothing too, too complicated. I thought I'd open them up just to clean them a little bit, so you can see here the little electrodes. Everything's copper, which is really nice. So that's one of the sort of spring-loaded ones, that's that one. Let's take a look at one of the non-spring-loaded ones. So here, again, another case. This one just doesn't go anywhere. And then, put that there. Another spring, just two regular springs. Also copper, like the other ones. These ones are actually a little bit shorter, interestingly enough. So they're a little bit shorter. I don't know how well you can see it, as I can't see the LCD on my camera very well. But soon that will be mitigated, don't worry. But yeah, these are shorter than the larger one, than the other ones. It's probably because they don't have to be spring-loaded to encounter for the extra movement. And then same, like almost identical copper or brass, they could be brass electrodes as well, with some flathead screws on the bottom. So that's basically the fittings. There's nothing too special about them per se. They're just some pretty regular fittings. So we've got parts for that one, and then this is the case for this one as well. Same with this one. We've got this this thing I find is pretty cool. I like the way it's really a simple mechanism, but it lasts really long. I think that's very clever, but it's a little bit jammed up because it's most likely dirty, so that isn't really an issue, like, too hectic of an issue to deal with. But yeah, so that's pretty much inside the fittings. So I'm going to clean the fittings up as well, and then we can start working on the rest of the light. So yeah, I think that's going to be pretty fun. Alright, so now the light case is done and all the internals are done, what we're going to do is we're going to put it all together. Now I'm looking forward to this because I get to build and design the internals of the light entirely by myself and not by any schematics, completely off my head. I will just look for just a wiring diagram just to make sure I'm doing wiring how I'm meant to wire it. We will also need to get some fluorescent tubes in soon, so we're going to get those. I just need to wipe those down, but I'm not going to do that on camera because that's just literally just, wipe it down, all sorted, no problems there. And apologies, I'm looking at the camera quite weirdly because my hair is in the way. But yeah. So we're going to start building the light fixture itself. I just need to go quickly run out and get some of the screws that I need, as these take smaller screws in the middle than I have. So I just want to make sure I get the right screws that will just fit through there. Otherwise, everything should be good. And it was actually quite a nice surprise to find that these were screw contacts on the bottom. And it turns out that those little brass things are very brittle, so you cannot bend them, because I actually broke the first one, which was like, oh dear, that wasn't meant to happen. So I just stole one from another fixture, from one of the donor fixtures. And it's actually coming out really, really nicely. So we're gonna get started and finish this up. And I think since it has gotten dark out now, I am going to maybe install the fixture tomorrow, because I will have to turn off the lights, but we'll see what happens. We'll see how long building the fixture takes. But so far, so good. So let's get started. Okay, so I've finished all the wiring, and the wiring actually looks pretty nice. I never thought I'd have to cable manage a fluorescent light. Computers, yes, but fluorescent lights, no. But I've wired up a cable and I put some bulbs in. I still need to wipe down these bulbs, so just warning, it might be a bit flickery on the camera because the camera's pointed directly at it. But let's turn it on and see what happens. That looks very nice. And the camera's happy with it too. There's that rolling bar, but you won't see that when it's up on the roof. But that looks really good, and for some reason whenever I turn this on, the computer thinks something gets unplugged. Strangely enough. But this is really nice, and it is incredibly quiet too. So, hey, we got it working. Let's put the cover on and see. Well, I'll clean the tubes, put the cover on, and we will get a look at how awesome this thing's gonna look. So, let's do that. Alright, so now the lamp is ready to be installed. Now, this light is quite heavy because, again, it was made in the 70s, so it was built properly. But we need to mount it, so we need to use a stud finder like this one. There's not really much difference in them. The only thing is that they're smaller now because this one's quite an old one, so it's pretty big. But we're going to be using a stud finder. Now, my ceiling and my workshop is very small, so you can actually see where the studs that hold up the ceiling are anyway. So, it's not a problem. But one thing I must warn you, but before putting anything up, especially electrically, you need to isolate your main breaker or the breaker that you know for certain goes to that circuit. In my case, I'll be turning off the light breaker. So, in the next clip, I'll show you how to do that. Now, every breaker board does differ, so I need you to be incredibly careful. But if you don't know what you're doing, call in an electrician to do it for you as well. So, you need to be extra careful when installing lights, as they are heavy, especially old ones. They're heavy and they can be quite a mission to keep upright. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a time lapse where we're going to find the studs and actually mount the light, as mounting the light can take a long time and be incredibly boring. So I'm going to do that, but first let's isolate the light breaker. Okay, so I've got a handheld here, but as you can see, this is the breaker board, and we are going to take these cables off of it, and that's just a soldering iron and some test leads. But yeah, let's open it up and take a look. Whoops. Anyway, so here we are inside the breaker panel. Now this one you can take the doors off. So, as you can see, we've got the main switch, the earth leakage, the plugs for this room, and there's actually that sub dB breaker there actually goes to this dB board because there were never plugs originally in this room. But there are plugs outside. So as you can see, there's only one breaker labeled lights, and we're gonna flick that one down. And it's just gotten a bit darker. Oops. Didn't mean to turn the pull one off, but yes. So now, that light is completely dead. But we don't know that. So when I go up there, I'm going to use my multimeter to test for voltage. But right now, all the lights in this area are now no longer have power, or that should be the case. So let's do some stud finding and some mounting, and we should be good. And there we have it. We have light. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was quite a tough one to film, especially since my audio recordings laptop went. So you're going to have to enjoy the crispy, crunchy audio from my camera. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed it. Bye-bye.